Mr. Segun Awosanya, you're welcome to The Drill.
Thank you very much for having me.
So I'll quickly read to you the statement by the spokesperson for the Nigerian police force, Mr. Jimoh Moshood, who said, when you see someone like that who regularly mingles with politicians, now leading a campaign to scrap a critical department of the police, then you know his activities are not genuine. The question then is, are you really pursuing an altruistic cause, or is yet another gimmick to support? Because the claim is that you're a member of the PDP and all your attack on the SARS is just to discredit the current administration.
Well, I think that we must be able to separate facts from fiction. People who are suffering from paramnesia, or people who are trying to protect their interests, people who are benefiting from the fact that the police structure has been balkanized to a point where every man does what seems right in their own eyes. We always say things like that, or look for death, or find means to discredit you, or whatever. But the records are there, to speak for themselves. I have never, come on air or come on TV or radio to talk about myself, because the things that I've done, my life is like on a timeline, so you can actually see for yourself or talk to people with experience who have direct contact or relationship with me. They will tell you what I stand for, and they will tell you what I would not accept, because they say accept what you cannot change and change what you cannot accept. What age precisely do I begin to ask the question, or say to myself that not in my backyard? Or I begin to ask the right questions that every citizen need to begin to ask their government or those people who lead them. And the fact that the country has been so polarized and everything has been so politicized, and the police, which is supposed to be the most intelligent institution in any civilization, has now turned into a place where politicians put or dump their griots, their moral griots, who now use the system on taxpayers' money, to launder their own image. So we can begin to, if you look at the statement that he was making, when a supposed intelligent police system comes out to say we are investigating somebody because we saw his pictures on Facebook, and what pictures precisely was he even referring to? A picture of myself and a minister when I was advocating for the return of the jobs of 2,000 Nigerians that I've never met in my life, which eventually the president, in his consideration and empathy, signed back on their jobs.
Wait, so we can take it that your campaign has no political undertone, there's no political gambit here, it's strictly driven by humanity.
Simple, because every single thing I've ever done, from the age of 13 has always been about humanity, because we're all wired differently. I don't have to wait, to experience something before I understand the trajectory and the implication on society and myself. I don't have to wait until I see a disaster before I start reacting. We respond. We are more about my organization, myself, my being, every single thing about my person is always about proactiveness.
Your campaign to take up the SARS, you quite know that this is a well-entrenched establishment, well-structured in the country. You're going against the Nigerian police force.
No, correction. We are not going against anybody.
I mean, the police force see that you are. I heard your conversation with the PRO, and
you see, that's one of the things.
It does look like you are putting the police force on the hot seat.
Precisely.
So the question is, have you counted your cost, and you're willing to go down the hall?
If I had not, I wouldn't be here, because I've been here for 1 year, and it's not just I. Millions of Nigerians are here. The movement belongs to the people. It is not a franchise. They've tried everything, single thing. They've thrown the kitchen sink and the kettle at us, but we have not been perturbed. We've been focused on what we're doing, because it is not about us, but about the future of our children.
Don't you think your modus operandi is what makes you seem antagonistic to the police?
It is not.
And makes them unable to come to the table to work with you?
We don't have to. See, the thing is, the advocacy is not directed at the police, as it were, the ranks and file. Because like I told you, they are balkanized, they are politicized, they are bigoted, and we are not focusing on those ones. They are not the decision maker. They are only appeasing their benefactors. So we are actually talking to the decision makers, the executives, the judiciary. We are talking about the legislature. You know, that, because again, this is the question of law. No law, we have the Police Act, we have the EFCC Act. There's no act that established the SARS. So it's an ad hoc program.
I'll come to that act, you know, very quickly. But before I go there, you see, the police force, and particularly
there's no police force, the police service.
The police service, if you, I beg to be corrected, the police service and some of your critics who have frowned at your modus operandi have consistently argued that the SARS play an extremely critical role in our society, where they fight dangerous criminals and have stopped them from rioting in our neighborhoods. The question then is, if you try to scrap these strong organizations who is dealing with dangerous criminals,
is to ensure that we don't live or continue to live in the circle of elect and regret, in the circle of sticking to the past, in the circle of living a revisionary life. And what's a revisionary life? Something that worked in 1983, we need to bring it back in 2018 when the world has moved on. You understand? What are the standards and best practices? What will you compare the organized crime syndicate we have today that we call SARS with abroad? Okay, every single police unit that has a semblance of the imbroglio that we have here now, you know, have been scrapped worldwide. Yeah. And then so it is, we're not fighting against anything. Yes. The advocacy is about end SARS, reform police NG. Yeah, so
that is the crust of the debate.
Which means
the crust is, why are you advocating to end SARS and not to reform its
We can't reform SARS because you don't reform cancer. Once a cancerous node has been identified, you know, all you need to do is to cut it out and save the body. So end SARS is an objective. Reform police NG is the end goal, which benefits everybody, including former SARS operatives, which will now, you know, be x-rayed, will now be, you know, examined. We have PTSDs and what have you, all the necessary tests, you know, will be carried out so that we can know those that will need to be reabsorbed, and they're probably reabsorbed into a different unit where they won't have to have the advantage or to abuse citizens, because we're talking about human rights here. We're talking about life. We're talking about the sanctity of human lives.
So let's talk about the Police Act for a minute here, because I know that you're advocating in the National Assembly for some reformation of the police, like you have argued. Is it possible for the National Assembly to pass a legislation or to tweak the Police Act, and then it consequently leads to the scrapping of SARS? How does that work? Because it does seem like you rightfully said, SARS is not the creation, of legislation or an act. So how then is your advocacy in the National Assembly going to lead to the scrapping of SARS?
Okay. Well, these are some of the things that already happened, so you can't really do much about it, which is why we're not paying attention to the bickerings of the people within the police structure who are just trying to show loyalty to their benefactors. So, going to your question, we're approaching this from different angles. From the legislature, from standing in the gap, from interventions to protect the citizenry. Because when a policeman robs you, who do you go to? Police? You can't, because you have already battered. So the people need to have a place to go, and thankfully we have lawyers across Nigeria now who are ready to intervene. You see the record time at which we engage citizenry and protect and help, save them from the jaws of SARS and what have you, and it's paying off. The records are there to show for themselves, and we have not been asking for money from anybody. But the legislative angle here is this. Now there is a constitutional impediment, if you like, that is actually preventing the police from being accountable and being transparent. It is just like you having a father, you being a successful teenager who has a father who cannot correct you because you're the one paying his bills. The IGP does not bring, we don't have a federal police system, okay? We have a Nigerian police system, controlled by the president, controlled by the National Assembly, that is the Police Service Commission, who is a body that is saddled with discipline, promoting them, disciplining them, controlling them, and what have you. But again, they don't see their budgets. So you can imagine having a group of people, a group of senators, a group of members of parliament who sit around to talk about the police system, but they don't know what the budgetary allocations are available to the police system. In other words, whatever it is they get from the IG of police, they will say whatever it is you want to get stamped.
So you want an act that restructures
with the reformation or with the tweak or repeal and replacement of the Police Act. we can begin to now properly, rather than a political pronouncement that put the police under the Ministry of Interior, we can now have a proper structure that puts the police, that makes the police accountable to the Minister of Interior or whosoever, or whichever body that they're supposed to, because you cannot control and maintain something that you don't understand its finances. And right now, we're not also, we say police, reform police NG, because we know the problems of the police beyond what the police can even come out to say. They cannot protest for themselves, they cannot reform themselves, and it's only through this legislation, once we remove the constitutional impediment, and we have, and again, to do that, to fix the Police Act, we need to amend the Constitution.
And that gets me to this question, which is the problem that we're dealing with the SARS, which is a creation, of the police, or it's the police command structure itself, or it's the entire justice system that we're dealing with here?
The Universal Institutional Reform Advocacy, which is the main body that sponsored this is just one program out of several that is you are still going to experience as we move along. The major focus of that body, the body that controls, or the body that tends to, that brought about the SARS Reform Police NG movement, that body, the focus is the reformation of the criminal justice system. And thankfully, we have a law already, which is the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015, which begins to tweak a lot of things. If that's, and the good news also is that because of the advocacy and because of the letters and the various communication we've had with the judiciary, the Justice of the Federation has mandated the full implementation of that act, which makes it impossible, or illegal for police officer to stop and search you without a warrant, which makes it impossible and illegal for a police officer to touch you, to beat you, or to become very partisan, or to profile you and discipline and become the judge and the jury and the executioner on your case, indiscriminately. And also it decongests the prison, and then it also ensures that there is an enforcement of the human rights.
So do you buy the argument that you're not dealing with the elephant in the room, you're staring at the ant and ignoring the camel when you focus on just the SARS issue and not the entire justice system as a whole?
That will actually be a simplistic way of looking at it, because if you look at it objectively and you look at it deeper, you will understand that you start from somewhere. When you go into your house and you find it flooded, you need to begin from bailing water from where you stand. Where do we stand now? You want me to open my eyes and let citizens be killed on a daily basis by drunk policemen or by thugs, by people who are not trained and giving guns to murder our citizens for money because some people have to be settled? I'm not going to do that. So we first need to cut the cancer and begin to treat the problem and save the body. So there's no sentiment about it. We cannot hold on to 1992 because we want to appease some people who are most probably benefiting from bloodletting of our youth. The youth are the future of Nigeria. So for us to open our eyes and let this continue, it's going to be an injustice.
I hear you consistently talk about the fact that the system as currently structured benefits a few people, and that's why it's being difficult to repeal and to change and to do whatever reform that you're proposing. But the question then is, who benefits from the rascality of the SARS group and the oppression of the citizens and the inhumane treatment that they met down on the average Nigerian? Who benefits from that callous activity that they carry out?
I think that's a subject of research to most students out there or curious journalists if they are unshackled, But the thing you need to understand is, like I said from the beginning, if you want to know the basis of most problems in the country, you look at those who are benefiting from it. And when you look at it, how exactly do you recruit men of the SARS? It starts with people making deposits so that they can be, because it's the most lucrative unit in the system. So when you put them there, there is the EOD, those people who work on bombs and what have you and all. Have you ever heard any of them walk around and start searching people for bombs or accusing youth of carrying explosive? They have the power to do the same because they are one of the most sensitive and they are the most trained unit in most traveled, most exposed, most trained unit within the system. And because the money at the top, within the structure of the police, doesn't get to the bottom, people become, impunity reigns. They fend for themselves.
Isn't it such a paradox that they are the most trained, the most exposed, the most traveled?
Not the SARS. I'm talking about the EOD now. I'm just giving you an example.
Okay.
That we're not saying end the EOD.
Okay.
We're saying end SARS. There's a reason behind that.
So that even brings me to the point. If the EOD are that trained and that exposed, and of course you don't see them harassing people on the streets as we see the SARS do.
Yeah.
If we put the SARS team through such rigorous training and international exposure, but local trainings and what have you in human behavior, do you think that there's a possibility that there could be a change of approach, a change of engagement with the citizenry that could lead to a point where we do not need to demand that they are being scrapped, so much so that they can carry out the responsibility in which they were constituted to do?
We need to divorce ourselves from sentiment. Okay? What needs to go needs to go. This has become a culture. Impunity has become a culture within the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. The A there is useless. They are just Special Robbery Squad right now, even growing into a terrorist organization. There is no day you are not going to get up to 100 cases of people being extorted. As I'm speaking to you, there are buses moving from street to street, arresting or abducting innocent citizens and extorting them, forcing them to write statements across Nigeria. So it is an organized crime. So it's not something we can pretend about. We have our data. Like I told you, we're not just speaking. This is beyond social media rants or what have you. The social media aspect of this whole thing is just for awareness and to give confidence to Nigerians that you can talk about these things. Before now, from our research of 2017, people they were too afraid to talk about their issues with SARS because of reprisals or what have you, or because of the statement they've made them to make or forced them to make. But today, they know that there are people who can fight for them. There are people who can actually stand with them in this case and review them. For example, most of the cases that have been solved in most times that have gotten policemen to be dismissed, we have been involved. From the bottom, if I have not made that public outcry, if I have not investigated or gone deep into the case, it would have been swept under the ground. Yomi Shogunle Jimoh Moshood would have lied about it and covered it up.
All right, so Mr. Segun, we'll take a very short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the new cases that you've had to handle, particularly the young lady who just died from a gunshot wound in Abuja.
Thank you.
So please stay with us.